Guess who's back? Back again. I should not sing. I had a voice teacher once tell me I shouldn't sing, but what I wanted to do was nerd your back in the pool again. So just pretend like I'm singing that to you. And as discussed last time, we're not actually going to talk about like wines of the US. We're going to talk about wine history in the US. And I also know that the LGBTQI plus PowerPoint was very colorful, and the Menthea PowerPoint was very colorful. This one is because it's history. I wanted to do like a black white sepia thing. My cat was still in the door. I was like, oh, he gets a cameo. So it's not quite as colorful, but it's still going to be a great discussion, and the wine bottle is still very colorful. So let's go. I also just realized I hope I actually finished this. I also think there's a lot of text in this one that is on the right-hand side. So I'm just going to move me over here. Seems reasonable. Okay, so a brief history of wine in the United States, or what the heck, prohibition. That's this week's discussion. Okay. All right. Oh man, I moved me and here we are. All right. So the agenda that I'm pretty sure I followed, but once again, I made this and then I made the presentation and who knows if they match. So we'll have the pre-prohibition history, talk a little bit about prohibition. We'll talk about post-prohibition, then recovering from prohibition, and then the current wine, future wine, and a little bit of a recap. Okay. So wine up until prohibition. All right, we do love timelines. So here is this fun timeline. We will start with the year 1000, when the Vikings came over and they called this place Vinland. Now, it honestly was probably like just a little bit east of Canada, not so much in the United States, but there were just vines everywhere. So they were like, well, this is going to be vine land. Then in the 1500s, the French and the Spanish make Scuppernong wine. Now, Scuppernong is a type of muscadine, and muscadine is, all right, I think we've talked about Vitis vinifera is kind of like the grape rootstock, the grape species, or the rootstock species. Muscadine is Vitis rotundifolia. So not Vitis vinifera, very different grapes. These grapes were very high sugar. I don't remember, I think 15% per grape or whatever. Very sweet, thick skins. The skins can be very bitter. So I don't know why my computer's freaking out. So interesting wines made from these. If you have a chance to try muscadine wine, I recommend it. I personally not a huge fan, but if you like your wines on the sweet and fruity side, you may enjoy it. 1600s, another American rootstock, Vitis labrusca, is declared foxy. Now, I never really understood what foxy meant. I was like, did they eat foxes? Did it taste like fox meat? No, nope. It's that it tastes similar to the smell of fox urine or a fox den. And it comes from methyl anthranilate. So, yeah, maybe not the best way to have a wine. Unfortunately, every time they would bring over Vitis vinifera, it would fail because of a lot of reasons, but largely because of phylloxera, which I believe we've discussed, but I will put it on a future video as well. Now, out in the mid 1600s, we're out in California, New Mexico, Texas. The mission grape, which is Vitis vinifera, is doing great because the soil out there is sandy, and phylloxera can't live in sand because it's like a burrowing insect. And so like its little tunnels would collapse on it in the sandy soil. So anywhere that has sandy soil, not a phylloxera problem. All right, back to the east, 1768, Thomas Jefferson builds Monticello. He is convinced that Virginia is going to be like the perfect place to grow these wine grapes. It doesn't go great. And then I didn't put this 1776 is when the US was established. Then in the late 1700s and early 1800s, they start creating a lot of hybrid grapes. So they're mixing Vitis vinifera with the Vitis, I believe the Vitis labrusca. There's another Vitis R or something that I'm completely blanking on. The hybrid grapes are thriving. Very good. Lots and lots of hybrid wines. Now back to the West Coast, 1849 is the gold rush. So people all head out to California. Immigrants come up to California. Everybody's trying to get this gold. Well, the mines obviously dry up. So what skills do these people have? They're farmers. So they start growing grapes because honestly, viticulture is essentially just great farming, like top-notch farming. Yeah. So then 1857, this guy, Agustin Harasti, I believe is how it's pronounced. I'll put his name in the video comments. He founds Buena Vista Winery in Sonoma, and that is the oldest continually operated winery in the US even today. 1880s, we've got this thriving West Coast scene, tons of wineries opening up in California. The Civil War is over. That was the 1864-ish time. We've got a thriving East Coast scene with all these hybrid. Then on January 16th of 1920, it's Prohibition. So now, I believe it was that like drinking wasn't outlawed, but making it, buying it, selling it, and owning it all were. So like it was outlawed. Okay. So I want to draw your attention. Prohibition winemaking was hilarious. And I'm going to circle back. God, I can't believe I just said circle back. That's such a corporate term. I'm going to circle back to a lot of the things we've been talking about, but especially this. So I want to draw your attention to, oh, my hand disappears. Okay. The third paragraph. Vine glow is the pure juice of California wine grapes. It is produced as an outlet for the annual surplus of wine grapes in California by Fruit Industries Limited. So basically, their facade, just gonna call it what it was that they had been making all these wine grapes and now they can't grow wine. So do you guys want these grapes? You can eat them, you can make juice of them. Yep. All right. So that turns into something we'll see in just a moment. So what did survive Prohibition? Sacramental and kosher wines. So actually a lot of the reason we still have wine in the US today is because you still needed wine for church. So those wines survived. A lot of winemakers went to making those wines, but obviously these are different, like commission grapes, Concord grapes. You're not drinking cabs. You're not having Bordeaux blends. This is literally just for church. Then they had a lot of medical tonics. I see. I'm on to you, Prohibition people. It's wine, salt, and beef broth to cure your ills. Wine bricks, which we'll get to in just a second, and has a lot to do also with the vine glow. There are a lot of differing numbers. I found tons of sources. Almost none of them agreed. So best guess is approximately 140 of the 800 California wineries survived. And then I definitely have a question mark on this one because I don't know how many wineries there were in the US. And there are some sites that say like, oh, 250 survived, oh, 6 survived. Let's just assume about 2%. Somewhere between 0 and 10% of these wineries survived, probably closer to 2. And then supposedly 32,000 speakeasies in New York arose. So that's it's definitely a testament to what the people wanted. And I also believe that would probably have been more than the saloons that they closed down. So, questionable. Okay. Now, these are the wine bricks. And I'm wondering, theorizing, my thesis is that this may have been the start of like boxed wines. This is your homemade wines. This is hilarious. So Vino Sano wine grape juice sold these bricks of like basically grape juice, grapes and grape juice. And I want to make sure that I get this correct. It says very specifically, oh my gosh, I can't even read it because it's so bright. This is so dangerous. Okay. Yeah, you must add benzoate of soda to prevent fermentation. Like, guys, be careful. You could accidentally make wine. And supposedly there were some of these companies were selling their grape bricks with packets of yeast, saying, now don't put these together. We're just giving you this yeast for your bread. But if you put this in your grape juice, like you're going to get wine, and that's not allowed. Don't have those illegal beverages. So really everybody was still just selling wine, except you had to like, it was like the IKEA of wine. You had to DIY at home. But I just love, I mean, is it creative? I don't even know. It's just hilarious. Finally, March 22nd, 1933, FDR says, I trust in the good sense of the American people that they will not bring upon themselves the curse of excessive use of intoxicating liquors to the detriment of health, morals, and social integrity. Basically, it turned out not to work. Like you just couldn't, especially during the Great Depression, like you can't just illegalize alcohol. People enjoy it. People needed to relax. Bad things were happening. It was just an utter failure. So they called it. And honestly, good for them because like it wasn't going well. Bad things were happening. All right, so spoiler, I did just mention this. August 1929 to June 1938. So this is during Prohibition. We have the Great Depression. Whiskey and gin had been the spirits of choice prior to the Great Depression, and they were a lot of what was sold in the speakeasies. If you associate gin with the 1920s because of the speakeasies and depression, spot on. Interestingly, beer became the post-prohibition beverage of choice. It was marketed kind of as this like relax, have fun. You can drink these, and it's not like a speakeasy thing. It's a casual get together kind of chill. And so, I mean, the marketing worked. People became huge beer drinkers after Prohibition. Notice we're still not drinking wine. All right, so finally we're rebuilding. It takes a long time. So Andrei Chelychev fled Russia during the Russian Revolution in 1917. He studied agricultural science in Czechoslovakia and then enological science and viticulture in France. He was renowned for his palate, which was kind of funny because he was also a massive chain smoker. Georges de la Tour brought him to Napa because he wanted his palate, he wanted his expertise, like bring this guy over, get our wines back up and running. And Andrei Chelychev, I guess, was just appalled by the practices happening in American wineries. So he raised the standards, and he is considered by some to be like the dean of American winemaking or the father of American winemaking, kind of really set the standards for what we do today. Then Robert Mondavi had been making wine pre-Prohibition. I believe his family had acquired the Charles Krug winery before Prohibition. I might have my dates a little mixed up. And then in 1966, he launched the first major Napa winery post-Prohibition. That's a long time. That's 33 years. So we're still not recovered. Like we're not 1966 to now. Like think about what a short period of time that is. He was big on using the European techniques. So cold soaking, stainless steel, oak to get all these various flavors, but also new concepts. So he may or may not have been, probably was the father of using the, oh my gosh, the variety as the label. So the reason that we see things like Cabernet instead of Napa, and then you have to like figure out what the grape is because of Robert Mondavi. And he also was big, we weren't really into like tours and tastings yet, but he wanted to establish the quality of California wineries. And he thought what better way to do that than holding these tastings and these tours of the wine facilities. So if you're into tastings and blind tastings, you can kind of thank Robert Mondavi. Although blind tastings are more accredited to Stephen Spurrier, who is the one who instigated the Judgment of Paris. So I'll link his bio because honestly, there's like too much to cover. And if you want to read more about the Judgment of Paris, definitely do. I'm just going to go over a little bit. Anyway, so May 24th, 1976. He's been to France. He's tasted their wines. He's been to California. He's tasted their wines. He actually just wants to bring California wines into the spotlight. His goal was not to like stage this upset that ended up happening, but he pitted 10 whites against, no, I'm sorry. 6 American whites against 4 French whites, and then 6 American reds against 4 Bordeaux blends. And I believe the whites were from Burgundy. For the whites, it placed California first, then France, California, California, France, California, France, France, California, California. The reds were a little bit different. You had California first, then the 3 French, then California, the 4th French, and then the last 4 were all California. But note that California white and red both took first place. I have the wines here. The white, Chateau Montelena, that was the one that won the whites. And where did it go? Oh my gosh. And Stag's Leap Wine Cellars 1973 won the reds. And I will include the rest of the wines in the video description because it was just such a wild thing. So these were like Parisian judges and they picked the California wines and it was a huge upset. There was lots of like scandal. It was great, honestly, because I love French wines and I don't tend to like California wines, but I just love that there was such like upset and everybody was so like, maybe we did the tasting wrong and there was all this drama, and I'll definitely include some links because it was so funny. So that really put like California wines on the map. So now I'm trying to move myself again. Me over, there we go. Okay, so we've kind of had a bifurcation in our wine tastes. So historically, the US has had sweet wines. We had the muscadine wines, the hybrids were still pretty sweet. Then we were making that home wine, and like, I don't know if you saw it on the thing, but it's like a pound of sugar. that you put in with this grape juice. And yes, it fermented. So some of the sugar got eaten and turned into alcohol. Like, it was still pretty sweet. And then after Prohibition, of course, because it was a little easier to grow and people were into the sweeter wines. So wineries gave people what they wanted. They gave them Sauv Blanc, Chenin Blanc, Chardonnay, even White Zinfandel, very fruit forward, sweeter wines. So now we've almost had a split in the wine world, which is a little bit disappointing. You have the easy drinking crowd getting like the yellowtail, the boxed wines, literally no problem with any of that. And then you have the like only special occasion people who are out there getting only these $100 bottles and like drinking champagne and all this. And like, I love a good champagne. I love a good easy drinking. Your tastes will change. I just think that, again, the whole point of this channel and this family that I'm trying to build is that there's no gatekeeping in wine. If you like wine, you like wine. Every day is a special occasion. You like what you like. You can afford what you can afford. Just drink the damn wine. General trends. 1976, which was the Judgment of Paris, we are nearing the end of Gen X. Now, if you are not American or you don't know the generations, you're just going to have to roll with me. We have our people divided into generations, and each generation has like attributes and characteristics, whatever. It's kind of silly. It's kind of funny. The baby boomers are all nearing retirement now. Let's not get started on the ones who refuse to retire. So when you hit retirement, you generally spend less overall. So they're not drinking as much wine, and they mostly grew up like just after the Great Depression. So they were more into the beer and spirit. So they were never big wine people in the first place. So Gen X and millennials make up the majority of wine drinkers. And we're having a little bit of a struggle in the wine world because Gen Z have a number of reasons not to buy wine. There are a lot of lower calorie options out there right now. Even some of the wine ones, they're snatching those up instead of what they think are these caloric, sugar-laden drinks. Some education may need to happen, but anyway, there's also less of a drinking culture. People don't drink almost got dive bombed by a bird. People don't drink just to drink. They want to have these social events. They want to have tastings. They want to have things that are accompanying these drinks. Otherwise, and honestly, this is kind of an issue. I mean, like, now that marijuana is legalized, if you want to like let go and relax and you can smoke, like it's not against your job, a lot of people are doing that instead of drinking. And there's also the monetary value, right? So like, if you are trying to get drunk, it is cheaper to drink alcohol than to drink good wine. So a lot of reasons Gen Z isn't drinking. I'm hoping there will still be maybe like a resurgence. I know a lot of like the mailing of wines is getting popular. I think wineries are finally figuring out they need to change their marketing tactics. I just hope we don't lose this art that is winemaking because of the change in generations, but I also hope new things come of it. So who knows what's going to happen, which I think is kind of the next slide. Yeah, so, all right, I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet, but your kids are going to love it. Name the movie. Am I dating myself? It's Back to the Future. All right, recap time. So the US started kind of sweet. Could be why we've ended kind of sweet. Homemade wines upped the sweet and down the quality. Could be why we have a lot of sweet, not very high quality wines. The Depression did not help at all. No help there. People were sad. Anyway, Chillin' Chef and Mondavi, absolutely for the win. Thank you so much for bringing it back. Yes, winemakers, fathers of wine. And now we just have this super varied wine market, you know? Where are we going? Where are we going in this PowerPoint? No, I'm kidding. Where are we going as a wine industry? I don't know. Maybe that'll be when I get to write my W6 or W6. Good Lord, my WSET D6 about is the future of wine. I don't know what the options are. I think the future will be good, but we have, a lot with climate change. The latitudes are going to be changing. That 30-50 may not hold. We're going to see a lot of different flavors. We're going to see a lot of different desires in the market. I'm excited, nervous, nerve-sighted, nervous. Well, anyway, next time I would like to do a little more. We've done a ballin' on the budget video before. I want to do another one. I'm hoping we actually get to take a couple of field trips. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. We might do something entirely different. Who knows? Maybe we'll do the standstill. I don't know. But that is the hope. So now if I can just get over to the side of the pool. Oh, no, I did forget the thanks. Okay, so thank you to all of these 8,000 gajillion links that I will definitely include in the video description, as I always do. And then also my partner for helping me definitively decide to do it on history instead of anything else that could have been lame. CMS for teaching me about Chelichev and Harasti, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have known a lot about them before I started researching for this. Al Capone, had to give a shout out to him. I mean, like, honestly, just go read about him in the Prohibition. Is it good? Maybe not, but is it funny? Kind of. Everyone who ran the speakeasies, thanks for keeping the drinking culture alive. And of course, FDR for lifting Prohibition. Oh my gosh. All right, we're going to stop the share and we're going to do some drinking. Now, the reason that I chose this wine, put this under the shade so it doesn't overheat. Reason I chose the Kaleidoscope wine is partly because it kind of looks like a firework to me. And with it being the 1st of July, July 4th is coming up for the United States. Freedom from prohibition. I don't know, it all made sense in my head. You've got the freedom from whatever, July 4th freedom, prohibition freedom. This looks like a firework. Also, because it says very specifically on the back, cellared and bottled by the Michael Mondavi family, Napa, California. And Michael Mondavi is, of course, related to Robert Mondavi. So shout out for keeping the wine culture alive. Now, interestingly, I found out that Mondavi has, I believe, been acquired by Constellation. So I will include an article about that in the video description as well. I always want to call it like the video caption, which does not make sense. Anyway, let's drink this Kaleidoscope. It is, oh, it's a red blend from California, but it is a Bordeaux blend. I believe it's Cab Sauv, Merlot, Malbec, and Petit Verdot. I don't remember if there's Cab Franc in it. I can double check. I'll put that in the video description also. Oh yeah, this is the part where last time I said I should probably say like, follow, and subscribe, leave comments, because if you tune out when I start drinking, this is probably when you're going to tune out. But hopefully you're drinking with me, so we'll see. That just straight up smells like butter. I'm confused. Okay, so I'm cutting myself off because also it's nighttime, so we're in PJs, we're having a beer. I went on to kind of give some of the flavor characteristics, and I really wanted to like this wine. I got a little too, someone recommended it to me, and I really want, less expensive wines to be good so that we're not gatekeeping. Unfortunately, this actually is a $16 bottle. So let's just go over the flavor characteristics, and then we'll use the WSET systematic approach to tasting to talk about the quality, and then I'll read you some reviews, and then yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so wasn't a lot of floral. I didn't get much floral. We'll skip green and citrus and stone. That's not usually in red wines. I mostly got, I know, I think I'll keep the part that said butter. I got this sweet cream, yogurty, definitely dairy notes, which normally, even with malolactic, because all reds undergo malolactic, we've talked about that. But even so, I normally only get those with white wines. So that was a little strange at first. And then it was just maraschino cherries and a ton of vanilla. So we've got basically for our red fruits, I would really only give it maraschino cherry and maybe some strawberry. I didn't get any black fruits. I haven't had kirsch, so maybe I need to try that because I'm gonna get to something in just a moment. Yep, and then yeah, this like butter cream thing and some vanilla. So we're looking at like 2 primary aromas and 2 secondary aromas, no tertiary. And this is a how many years? This is a 2020, so it could have had tertiary. I guess, yeah, I would call it candied, which we put more under a primary than dried, which just goes under the tertiary. So not really an aging thing either. But let's talk about just the assessment of quality. So when we assess quality, we want to talk about balance, length, clarity, balance, length, intensity, and clarity, or complexity. Sorry, not clarity. So balance. We're looking kind of at the acid, the tannin, the alcohol. The acid was pretty low. I would give it a medium minus at best. The tannin was also quite low. Honestly, it's hard for me to give a red wine low, so we're gonna go with medium minus again. And then the alcohol's at 13.5, so that is, we're pushing, you can't do pluses, so it's medium alcohol, getting close towards that higher end. So it's not balanced. So no points for balance. Length is talking about the finish. There's almost no finish. And what finish there is not the fruit qualities. It's not the primary. So we're a no on finish. Also no on length. Intensity. This is an intense wine. Like it is pronounced aroma and it is pronounced on the palate. So it gets a point for an intensity. And then complexity, I mean, you could give it like half a point because it does have a couple secondaries. But it only has a couple primaries and a couple secondaries. So just a half point. I'm not going to give it a full point. So we're at 1.5 points. So the way I typically do it, it's not faulty, right? It's not a faulty wine. So then we have 4 acceptable, good, very good, and outstanding. So what I do basically, since we have 4 things, I say if you get all 4, then you're outstanding. If you get 3, it's very good. 2 is good. 1 is acceptable, and 0 is poor. So this gets 1.5. So I'm saying this is an acceptable wine, right? Like it's not bad. I don't like it, but it's hi, Peachy boy. It is an acceptable wine. And that is just this is how you assess for certifications so that you don't say things like, well, this is a bad wine because I don't like it. Now what I want to do though is also, because I feel like these assessments are they're very helpful if you're not sure what you're getting into. So I went to Vivino. I was actually trying to find a tech sheet and I can't find a tech sheet for this wine at all, which is a little bit frustrating. Nose of vanilla and light oak, light mouthfeel. I don't agree with that. Taste of Chinese red preserved plum. I don't even know what that means. Not bad, not great, lots that are better. I'm gonna have to concur with that. Like for $16, I think I said 15, it's $15.99. So it is $16. And then I like to go to the 2 and 3 stars because I feel like those people are a little more honest. 5 stars is exaggerating, 1 star is exaggerating. Difficult to explain about taste. I agree. I mean, I was struggling with that weird margarine butter thing. It's just not my cup of tea. Very fruit forward. Tart, cherry, light, not layered or complex. Blah, blah, blah. Ample fruit. Found it on the sweeter side, virtually no finish. Too sweet, tastes like watered jam. Sort of sweet and fruity at first, pretty tart at the end. Too much vanilla. Let's go to the 3 stars. Not very complex, did seem to have more flavor the next day. I found it worse. Strong cherry nose, sweet, medium bodied, kind of jammy. Not as jammy as I would like. That person likes California Pinots for sure. A little bit on the sweet side, smoky. I didn't get smoky at all. These are different years, so could be different. And then Cellar Tracker, which is the one that I use for my tracking my cellar. God, such a dork. Not my style, overly sweet. The bottle is sweet, but still with a dry taste. I don't know if that person quite understands the sweet dry thing, but I mean, I get what they're trying to say. A little sour. This person says, one of our favorite everyday wines. Tastes like chocolate and ripe cherries. So that person likes their wines more fruit forward on the sweeter side. Good for the price. Overall, I have to talk back to the Kirsch thing. So then I thought, maybe I'm just becoming a wine snob. Like maybe I need to step back and reassess myself so that I'm actually really truly embracing the nerd vine, no gatekeeping, blah, blah, blah. So I had my husband try it. And he said, I think I wrote it down. So great. On the nose, he got Welch's grape juice, and then he went, beignets? I was like, sure, why not? I got like a light brioche, so whatever. And then basically he got overripe banana and cherry on the palate, and he put very specifically like cherry warheads. So that goes along with the sour that they talked about in a lot of the reviews. And with the banana and the cherry, I'm almost wondering if they used any carbonic maceration or semi-carbonic maceration. This wine was just not my cup of tea. I think one of the reviews said if this is like your gateway wine coming from like maybe white Zinfandel into you want to get into like Bordeaux one, they said like it's a good gateway wine. If you just like really fruity wines, this could be great. If you're making a sangria, my thing with it is that I think there are nice, fruity, jammy, chocolate, vanilla, blackberry, whatever wines for less. That's kind of my issue with it. And I understand it comes from like the Mondavi family. And that was part of why I wanted to drink it because we talked about Robert Mondavi. But I just think like, even though it has that good pedigree, I wouldn't pay $16 for it. I might pay like $8, but I think for 16 you can get a much better wine. So that's the assessment. I'm sorry I had to like cut myself out and then come back in. I just was having this thing where like I really wanted to like it and I wanted it to be good, but then I realized if I am not honest with you all, then why would you trust me about anything else that I'm telling you? So honest review, you might like it, not for me. I'll see you next time for the budgeting one. And then exciting news about the Sansol. We'll actually be drinking 2 wines when we do our Sansol. I'm so excited. Okay, see you next time. Bye.